Hey guys, this is Hasham, and today we're going to learn about LLM-driven AI agents. So let's get started. So, what is an AI agent? It's comprised of a few parts, and we'll go over all of those. So, first is the LLM. Now, the LLM can be thought of as the brain of the AI agent. It's basically what allows the AI agent to think, what it's supposed to do, and so on. Next, for this LLM to be able to properly function, so that it knows what it's supposed to do next, how it's supposed to plan, how it's supposed to reason, how it's supposed to execute the tasks, we give it an instruction, and this is usually in the form of a prompt template. So combining all of this, it also has the ability to use tools. Now this is important because LLMs, they usually have training cutoffs. They don't have the ability to go out into the real world, get the latest data. They are language models, so they can technically execute things. So for them to be able to do things on their own, to use other things, to go out in the environment and let's say call an API, execute something, give you the latest information, they need tools. So we'll look a bit more into that as well. And for the LLM to remember everything it's talked to you about so that it has the context of what's going on, it needs memory. And we use all of this to answer the user queries. So let's say a user comes to the AI agent, it asks, oh, can you do this for me? Then the agent is supposed to help them. So first is the LLM. Now there's a variety of models available in the market. There's open source models, there's quite a few of these. There's also closed source models. These usually provide you the APIs which you can use to use these models, and these different providers, they each have their strengths and weaknesses, and there's a ton of information on this which you can find online. Next, let's look at the instructions. Now the instructions are given in the form of prompts. This is basically a way for the agent to know how it's supposed to use the information or the questions you're asking it and how it's supposed to respond to you. There's a few different varieties of prompt methods. They can be React agents, they can be conversational agents, and it really depends on you how you're trying to implement these things. Now, in these instructions, in these prompts, we also give it the tools it has available. So let's say you have an agent, it's not supposed to call a very secretive API. In that scenario, you would not give that agent those APIs, but let's say you have another agent, it should have access to those APIs, or it can be other forms of tools. Then in those scenarios, you do give it that information, and we'll look a bit more into that as well. Next, let's also look at a few different prompting techniques. Common ones are, you could give it a simple prompt. You could be like, hey, if I'm taking the example of like a travel agent, you could be like, hey, you're a professional travel agent. Your job is to help this person, and in this scenario, they're going to have a trip in Kyoto, and the agent's job is to help them formulate a plan for this trip, what they're going to see, what places they're going to visit. You can give it this persona, and using this persona, the agent knows what it's supposed to do. You can even improve this prompt by giving it examples. This is usually called one-shot prompting. And in this scenario, you give it an example, something like, this is what the user will tell you, this is what you're supposed to reply. And then you give it the actual user input, so whatever the user has asked from the agent, and the agent, using this example, it knows how it's supposed to formulate its answer. In certain very difficult scenarios in which a lot more processing or reasoning or thoughts are required, you have chain of thought prompting. In this scenario, if you look over here, we have given it a few different steps. So let's say if the user is asking you to plan a trip for it, you're supposed to do the first step, the second step, the third step, the fourth step, the fifth step, and based on following all of these steps, whatever answer you get, you're supposed to give that to the user. There's a lot more prompting techniques as well, and maybe we'll discuss these in upcoming videos. Next is memory. Now, this is very important. Memory is the ability for the LLM to have the context for everything you've talked so far with it. So let's take an example. This is a situation without memory and with memory. So let's say a user comes to our travel agent. They say, hey, can you tell me about France? And the AI responds to this user. Next, let's say the user asks the question, what food is popular here? Now, if the LLM does not have memory, it won't know what here is referring to. So to cater to that, we need to give it memory. So with memory, what will happen is, let's say the user asked the question, can you tell me about France? And the AI answered. For this next question, when the user asks, what food is popular here? So it needs the context of here, right? What we do is we either send all of these messages together or a summary. Again, there's many different ways of processing these messages. There's different lengths of summaries that are sent and so on. So in this scenario, what would happen is, what food is popular here, and the LLM knows based on the conversation it's had so far what here is referring to, and that is France. So in this scenario, it will tell you, hey, in France, popular foods include baguettes, croissants, and so on. Now, let's move on to tools. Tools basically, like we discussed, give the LLM the ability to go out into the real world, see the latest data, execute some things like that. In this scenario, let's say our travel agent would need an API to connect to Google. This could be to see the latest trends, the latest, let's say, spots to visit. This could also give it the ability to find trips or flights that will be able to take the user to that place. So for the agent to be able to do all of this, it needs access to those certain APIs. You can even connect proprietary tools, things like if you've written a custom piece of software, you can connect that to the LLM. A lot of people use Python scripts to be able to do this. And let's say the agent should also be able to connect to other forms of APIs, tools, and things like that. One very popular thing right now is MCPs, and this is called Model Context Protocol. It is something that's really becoming more and more popular these days, and it's a form of tooling. It basically gives the LLM the ability to connect to external software, external APIs, things like that, and using that, the LLM can not only reason, but it can also execute things for you. So instead of telling you which flights to book, it can just go ahead and book those flights for you. Now, considering everything we've discussed so far, let's take an example. Let's take the example of our travel agent, which we've been discussing so far. In this scenario, the agent we have is our travel agent, and the prompt or the template or the instruction which we're going to give it is that it's supposed to plan our trips for us. So it's supposed to plan the trips as well as book the flights. Now, let's say the agent does not know which country or which area or which city is supposed to do this for. That's where the user query comes in. So let's say we're supposed to do this for France, and I really want to visit Paris. Now, this agent, it converses with the user, it takes in the user's queries, it keeps writing all of those into the memory. So it has a context of everything it's talked to the user so far. The reasoning or the processing of which place it's supposed to look towards, how it's supposed to plan those trips, how it's supposed to book those flights, all of that processing happens in the LLM. And using all of this, the AI agent can then help our user book their flights, find good restaurants, maybe even find hotel accommodations, and so on. This is kind of how an LLM-driven AI agent works. There's of course more advanced techniques, and we'll discuss all of those in a later video. That's it for today. I hope you guys learned something new, and you can do all of this with the Astera AI Agent Builder. For more information, check the description below. Thank you.